Right. Started recording. It'll say start recording and then it'll be good.
Okay. Okay, I got the red light recording. Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby rise from the closed session and declare the regular meeting reconvened at 5:40 p.m. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne? Councillor Coles, could you move?
Yes, I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
Yes, seconded.
All in favor of moving out of closed? Councillor Collins?
Yes.
Okay, and everybody else. Thank you. And that is carried.
This is minutes of settlement.
Okay, so now we are going to read the motion that came out of close, that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize and direct the mayor and clerk to, once finalized, execute the minutes of settlement respecting 96 Goddard Crescent between the Corporation of the Township of Seguin and Lisa Miron and Ernesto Rambaldini, and any other documentation required to implement the terms of settlement. Could I have a motion by Councillor Simpson?
I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Moffat,
I'll second that, Mayor.
and all in favor. And Councillor Moffat, thank you. Thank you, it's carried. Okay, motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matter relating to zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2021-0001 regarding regulations for cannabis manufacturing processing facilities. Could I have a motion by Councillor Osborne?
Oh, so move.
You? And seconded by Councillor Collins.
I'll second that, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of moving into public? Thank you.
Yay.
Council will now hold a public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to passing a zoning bylaw. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide your full name and address to the clerk. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2021-0001 is to clarify the regulations that will allow cannabis manufacturing and processing in the Township of Seguin. The regulatory function of zoning bylaw with respect to cannabis manufacturing and processing will be enhanced by adding 3 new definitions: manufacturing and process for cannabis designated, manufacturing and processing for cannabis license, and air treatment control for cannabis designated and licensed. The zoning bylaw amendment would permit only cannabis manufacturing and process facilities that have air treatment measures in place. In addition, designated and licensed cannabis manufacturing and processing facilities will be permitted by amendment only in specific industrial zones. Those are class M1, M2, M3, MP, and AR with site-specific regulations. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting in the local newspaper on January 28, 2021. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
No one is registered to speak to the application.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
Correspondence has been received from Mark Bissier and Carol, Ron, and Jen Chapman.
And that correspondence is in your addendum for your reference. Does council have any questions?
Oh.
Nothing to- Thank you. Council will now close the public.
Yes, well,
Sorry, Council
Yes.
Collins, you have a comment?
yes, are we ready to vote on this now?
No, we're just doing the public consultation here.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Thank you. Council will now close the public meeting and reconvene the regular meeting. Motion that the public meeting held for the following matter is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened concerning the zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2021-0001 for regulations for cannabis manufacturing and processing facilities. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner?
So moved.
And could I have a seconder from Councillor Cole?
I'll second that.
All in favor of closing the public meeting? Thank you. Council will now consider the following road allowance application. Concession road allowance application number RAC-2018-0012-F for Pine Orchard Investments Limited, bylaw number 2021-009. Have there been any written objections related to this application?
No written objections have been received.
Oh, I have a bylaw number 2021-009, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original concession road allowance, application number RAC-2018-0012-F for Pine Orchard Investments Limited, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Osborne.
Second?
All in
A
favor?
second?
Yes,
Councillor Collins? Okay, great. Thank you. I don't think the next one you was, oh, it's different. Okay. Bylaw that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff report as presented on the agenda for March 1st, 2021 meeting of Council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Simpson?
I so move.
Thank you. And could I have a seconder from Councillor Collins?
I'll second that, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of receiving staff report?
Yay.
Thank you. And I think the first one is you, isn't it? That motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin continues to remote electronic participation in meetings and direct staff to monitor the health unit and provincial information on the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic and report back to Council when it is deemed safe to resume in-person meetings. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Continuing.
Yay.
Okay, thank you. No comments? Going. And now, you have in front of you a very comprehensive staff report on the budget, and we have a motion that as per the recommendation of staff report number TR 2021-006, 2021 draft budget, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin hereby approve a 0.5% municipal tax rate increase 2021 and direct staff to prepare the 2021 budget for council approval. Could I have a motion from Councillor Cole?
I'll also move.
You, and seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And now I'd like to turn it over to the CAO and Michelle.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. Before you is a fairly comprehensive report that outlines the outcomes of our discussions from just a month ago. I will quickly turn it over to Michelle to see if she has any additional input, but I did want to share that just last week I had the opportunity to meet again with our Finance Committee and spent some time reviewing this very recommendation. I don't mind sharing with you that the Finance Committee had some mixed emotions between 0.5% and the 0% request that they had made. However, given the impacts of that 0.5% over the long term, I think they generally came to consensus that they were supportive. They would, of course, love to have seen, or would still love to see a 0%. However, I think, generally speaking, the Finance Committee, much like your staff did, struggled to strike the appropriate balance between sound financial planning and that of a 0%. And as you see in that report, a 0.5% tax levy represents only an $8.78 increase on the average home here in town. So I think we've come close as we could, given the direction from council. We were able to implement all of the initiatives that council had requested, including additional funds into the seasonal roads and the various service level change proposals that were before council, including advancing a 2022 one into 2021. So while we added several $100,000 worth of new services, we were able to fine tune and get us down to a place where, in fact, this budget that's before you tonight, and this consideration before you tonight, is actually just a single point, or a point one less than our original proposal. So with that, I'm happy to quickly turn it over to Ms. Fraser, see if she has any additional comments as your treasurer, and then, of course, we're happy to answer any questions, Your Worship.
Yeah, I don't really have any further comments. It's here in the report. We ran all of the direction from council through the 5-year plan. And really, in my opinion, and in Jason's opinion, this is the more responsible way to approach this, to be able to bring these 3 initiatives and the extra capital spending in 2021. This leaves us in good position over the 5-year period.
Are there any comments or questions from council? Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Michelle, do you have an estimated surplus or deficit approximation by the end of 21? Do you have a forecast of how close you think we're going to be?
I don't even have a budget yet, Councillor Osborne, so I have no idea.
Given the figures discussed, and the lack of a market value assessment from CPAC, what's your best guess?
Well, as it stands right now, this is the budget that we're putting before you. Obviously, there's going to be some ups and downs because of COVID, but as it stands right now, the budget that will be presented with the 0.5% will be a balanced budget.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my only question is on page 3 of your report, Michelle, is the number of large projects. What is the timeline to, kind of weave those into some forecasting to see what the impact is going to be pushing out, 22, 23? And I recognize some of those projects are not yet set in stone, but at least to start to budget to see what, we've got a 2%. Does that mean that at some point it becomes 3.5 or a half, something like that? So I just wanted to get a sense on that timing, please.
I mean, really, like the wellness center, I couldn't even begin to tell you when we would start bringing that one online. The broadband initiatives, you had the discussion today about some broadband initiatives. So a lot of that is so dependent on so many outside factors. Once we have good information, we'll start rolling it into the budget. But as it stands right now, I really couldn't say, Councillor Moffat.
Well, I understand that, but I guess what I would expect is that we should be able to at least start to weave it in, see what the impact would be in 2022 or half a year, or just get some general broad parameters for budgeting purposes to see where, this goes. But I'll leave it to yourself and Jason to talk about those. But I hope that we can maybe closer to the end of the year have some sort of sense, both on projects as well as dollars where these are going.
I mean, all of those projects that are listed here and all of the potential impacts are always, sitting there in the budget deliberations. But again, until I've got better information, I really can't start to pull some of them into the actual numbers.
Councillor Cole.
Yeah, I just wanted to express my appreciation and for the hard work that's gone into this process and for the fact that some very special projects were included. I think it's a great budget, and I think taxpayers in Seguin will be very happy at just a 0.5% increase. Thanks, that's all.
Thank you for saying that, Councillor Coles. I would echo your comments, and Jason and I are just beginning to see the percentages that are coming in from our neighboring municipalities. And so far, we're the lowest. And I do believe we are offering our ratepayers incredible value, even though there is a slight increase. I think what we will see going forward is a great place to live and work and make some important changes to the township. So thank you, Michelle, to you, your team, and to Jason for making this happen. But we have a motion on the floor.
Councillor Collins would like to say
sorry,
something.
Councillor Collins, go ahead.
Yes,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes, Michelle, I'm on cell phone. I don't have any internet, so I'm not on Zoom. But I would just like to comment that this budget is the best budget put forward to Seguin residents in the last 6-7 years. Congratulations. It's one of the best I've seen on paper, and hopefully my constituents and the other citizens of Seguin are happy as well. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no further comments, so I would like to call for a vote for the motion that's on the floor. All in favor of approving, basically directing staff to prepare the budget for complete council approval? Councillor Collins, are you in favor?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's carried. Thank you so much, Michelle and Jason and your whole team. Now, this is still Michelle. I have a motion that as per report number TR 2021-007, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize the following 2020 year-end reserve transfers as at December 31st, 2020. Salary grid movement reserve of $181,261.18, and the capital reserve fund of $67,303.71. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner?
So move.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vincent.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Sorry. Okay, Dominique, I believe you have the annual drinking water sample results, which is a very comprehensive report, and it looks like pretty good news. But I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, this is just our regular semi-annual report on our drinking water systems, and that encompasses all the outdoor drinking water systems as well as inside the facilities. And we've had no adverse samples come back in the last 6 months, which is good news. And these are just all the samples for you to review.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Dominique? Once again, Dominique. Oh, Councillor Osborne.
Somewhat unrelated, while we've got Dominic on here, any updates on COVID-related improvements through our funding on our facilities, Dominic?
Yes, we
The
are.
update?
We're moving ahead with hands-free faucets in our washroom facilities. We already have hands-free paper towel, soap dispensers. Those have all been done in every facility, and so we're continuing with that process.
So will it all be completed by the summer tourist season?
Hopefully, yes, before we open, which, well, I guess none of us know when that's going to happen, but yes, it's ongoing, and I hope to have it all done before we open.
Well, this would be the time to do it when everything's closed up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and I believe that this will be Director Stone on this one. So I have bylaw number 2021-014, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amending subdivision agreement between John Washington Stevens and Catherine Stevens and the Corporation of Township of Seguin, Plan 42M659, Lot 5, known as Yoho Island Lake Joseph, application number AGR-2021-0001-H for Stevens, and to repeal bylaw number 2011-041, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I second that.
Okay. And Steve, do you want to speak to it a little bit?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and to the rest of council. It's quite simple. The original agreement had the boathouse at the north end of the property. There's quite a steep slope there, and when they started construction on the cottage, felt by moving the boathouse to the south end of the property, they would have a much easier time getting up to the cottage. And if council recalls, you approved a fill bylaw exemption for this property last fall, and the boathouse is roughly in the location of access road. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Director Stone? Councillor Fellner.
Yes, thanks. Steve, just one question. So why, when we approved the creation of the trail, it wasn't shown on the site plan agreement? So why wasn't the site plan agreement amended then? And then did it have to be amended just for a physical relocation? Because it's a little perplexing to me. I thought the site plan agreement was supposed to cover all the development on the lot.
No, so back last fall, it was a fill bylaw exemption request. This is actually a development agreement. It's not a site plan agreement. So
okay.
Originally, okay.
I got it. Yep. Thank you very much.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve, I note in this Schedule C, Riverstone did a fish habitat review. It
Yes.
doesn't say when they actually did this. It's dated January, which would be a tough time to do a fish habitat. I think they're going by MNRF records.
That's correct.
It is type 2 fish habitat, which is critical, which is important but not critical.
That's correct.
Why do we even bother getting a fish habitat review when all they're depending on is MNRF and they're not doing a physical look? Just seems to me money not well spent.
Well, in this particular case, the original development agreement sort of did a similar review back in 2008, and I just wanted to make sure that we were covering off the relocation of the boathouse. So he did a similar desktop review to suffice our concerns. Thank you.
So the original review is, what was it? I didn't catch it, 08?
That's right, when the subdivision was approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Councillor
Yay.
Cole? Thank you.
Yay.
That's carried. And this is Chief Hood. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support the Regional Training Center submission for the West Perry Sound area. This is the Fire Training Center. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
Yes, I'll move that motion, Mayor. Thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Cole?
I'll second that.
And Don, do you want to take us through this recommendation?
Yes, this is a follow-up from the previous meeting where it was indicated the fire college would be closing, and the OFM have come up with a concept of regional training centers. It's not a physical location, it's a designation. So in this case, the regional training center, if we were successful, would be West Perry Sound Mutual Aid Association. And then we could potentially have training sessions at any one of the fire halls in our area. If the advantages of being designated is you have support from OFM for curriculum, instructors, etc. So basically, there's a lot of departments in the province that would like designation. Not everyone is going to get designated. So we put in a submission on behalf of West Perry Sound Mutual Aid to express the fact that we would like designation to be considered as a regional training center.
Does anybody have any questions for Chief Hood? Okay, I will call a vote. All in favor of putting in the application? Councillor Collins?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and that's carried. Good luck, Don. I hope you get it.
Thank you.
And I believe we are coming up to Director Crockett. I have a motion that bylaw number 2021-016, being a bylaw to designate reduced load periods on certain municipal highways or portions thereof within the Township of Seguin, and to repeal bylaw number 2018-108 and all other bylaws and resolutions or parts thereof contrary hereto or inconsistent herewith, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner?
So moved.
And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
Do you want to talk about it a little bit, Peter, and explain it?
Sure, it's really just housekeeping. We made an agreement with Hall's Construction last year for the paving of Turtle Lake Road from Highway 141 up to their pit entrance. And as a part of that, we would be removing the half load restrictions on that road. And we're just following through on our portion of it, of the bylaw. We're changing the bylaw to include that section of road.
Does anybody have any questions for Director Kroppich? No? Then I will call for a vote. All in favor? Councillor Collins?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we have a very comprehensive Seguin Annual Waste Report from Director Kroppich. It's got lots of data. So Peter, do you want to talk about it? It's a great report.
It's a lot of data. Yes, it's what happened last year in waste management. There was a very significant impact of COVID, which is demonstrated in the data provided. We increased our recycling and our waste intake by almost 20%. And that is the direct function of more people coming up here. We don't have more households, it's just more people in them. And so that's basically the bulk of everything. From the waste side, we're still maintaining our there's increase volume, but our costs are contained. We're managing our costs. There's lots of statistics here on the where all the garbage came from, what the composition was, and the same with the recycling. Lots of stats to go through. Recycling, of course, it also bounced up significantly the same amount. It was proportional. There's a chart that shows the costs associated with each one of our transfer sites. And that shows you that the airport is the most expensive one we have right now, primarily because of third-party contractor haulage. And of course, I guess the final thing to talk about is the blue box transition. Blue box transition is a big topic right now, and we're just waiting for legislation to be passed. The blue box transition is all about the costs associated with recycling programs being borne by the producers of the products rather than the municipalities. So it's a big switch in the management and the cost structure of the blue box program. And of course, everybody's really wondering what's going to happen because the rules of that the producers are going to have to follow are still unknown, and we're waiting for those. As soon as we know what they are, then we're going to move forward. We had a delegation at the OGRA on behalf of the 7 mayors or the 7 townships in the West Parry Sound area to try and convince the minister that we should transition the same time as Muskoka. Muskoka is transitioning in 2024, and we put a case together of why we should transition at the same time they do. And I think the mayor was there, the director of public works for Parry Sound, Mike Kearns was there, myself, and Norm Miller. And we talked with Minister Yurick. It was a good discussion, very direct, very pointed, short, but to the point. And we don't know how it worked out, but it was a very positive discussion. So other than that, there's lots of data there and some observations and successes. So anybody have any questions?
I think you have one coming from Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks you, Peter. One more broader question. We obviously last year we canceled our bulky waste days and stuff like that, and I'm just wondering what the plan is for 2021. If those events will be back on board, or we sort of at a wait and see kind of approach at this time.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're at a wait and see. I mean, if I had a crystal ball,
yep.
We can turn it on again. But if you take a look at all the waste and the visits we had at the landfill site, it didn't impact it at all. There was a lot of people came to the landfill site, and during COVID, we opened the landfill site but monitored what was dumped, and there was no cost. So it was a fair trade-off, I think, for the transfer sites, and I think it worked well. And perhaps if we would consider keeping it the same way this year, having maybe a period of time where it's free in the landfill, how would I say it? Instead of having the events. So I guess it'll sort of all determine really when we're opened up and when we can make those decisions.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess my concern is that when you get to the landfill, you think it's free and then you find out it's not. So versus going to the bulky waste days, generally it was a free, event. So I think if we're going to do this, we just need to make sure it's clear as to what is free. Because
That was a transition though. I mean.
yeah, absolutely.
We were trying to work on off
Yep.
our feet there. I mean, we're happy we got it open, and we got it open to 5 days. We had staff concerns. So it all worked out, but of course, once we have a bit more clarity, we'll make some, clear decisions.
So, sorry, Mayor, my follow-up is on page 6 of your report, Peter, page 129 in the council package. It was talking about the LCBO and the beer store. We used to have the bins because you talk about those being unwanted contaminated materials, and we're looking at other ways. Are we not thinking of bringing those yellow bins back into play at the transfer sites in order to maybe try to eliminate that, or is there a different plan, or what would you be exploring other than that, I guess?
Again, it really depends on what the pros want. We don't know what the rules are for the producers. These are assumptions that we're making right now, that the alcohol bottles would be unwanted or contaminated material. We are in discussions with the beer store, and I am working with CIF right now. The beer store has a mandate to collect all the beer bottles and all the alcohol bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's what we're looking at is seeing how we can sort of expand their service. And even if we maybe had to subsidize a little bit, work with them, work with the beer store and come up with a solution. There are a couple other municipalities that have done work with the beer store. And I'm getting that information as we speak right now through the CIF. And I will be exploring some options. The big problem with the yellow bins, and the only problem with the yellow bins, is the labor.
Yeah.
The people that were looking after that before were typically over 80 years old. Yep. And we didn't know from week to week if they were in the hospital or if they were able to come out. There's no young volunteers.
Yep.
So trying to make a seamless type of collection system, that's something we're working on. I mean, these opportunities will present themselves as people go into the new system with the new legislation.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Peter, for a very, very comprehensive report. And I think this is still Peter. I have a motion that as per report number PW-RD-2021-003, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize the removal of trees on municipally owned lands adjacent to 2 Cochrane Lake Road by the Sargent Company Limited. Could I have a motion from Darrell Moffat, Councillor Moffat?
So move, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
And Peter, you want to give a little bit of background? I think Jason and I were privy to some of the discussions, but it may be news to some of council.
Well, this project here has been underway for about a year, and there has been discussions with the planning department. It's just in a preliminary stage. It took them until the late fall of 2020 to actually acquire the land, so they could actually proceed with their program. The Sargent Company wants to build a convenience store and a card lock system at exit 217, and behind that they want to have a ready mix plant as well. So it's a pretty comprehensive development, and they have passed on recently all of the planning documentation and so on to Steve. Steve can vouch for, I'm sure it's quite a pile of material. If you look at this property, this property was the one used by PowerTel when the construction of the Henvey Inlet. And then they ended up selling it or working out to sell it to Sargent. So Sargent purchased this property. And if you go on to page 3 of the report, you'll see that the darker green sections there are municipal land. And they are in the process right now. The clerk can confirm there's been a request, and so can planning, that they're interested in purchasing these properties. And on some of those, on those properties, and of course on their own, there are some trees that they need to remove to develop this property. And according to the Migratory Bird Act, it's preferred to get these trees cut down before May 1st, before birds start to nest. So if you take a look at some of the pictures, really, this is after growth. This was cleared off years ago. The trees aren't really any more than 6 inches in diameter. It's really just shrub. And they would like to get this all cleared out so they can have a clear slate to proceed with. As we speak, to allow this, the cutting of these trees on the municipal land, in parallel, the application for them to purchase this land is underway. So they wouldn't cut the trees down before that agreement was well into place. So that's what they're asking for. They're asking if they want to buy the land. They're committed to do that. And they'd like to cut down some of these trees so that they can have a clean slate to do their development.
Does anybody have any questions for Director Coppich? It's a pretty exciting new business in Seguin. It's going to bring jobs, and I think it'll be impressive. And
it'll be an impressive development.
Yeah, and Sargent seems to really want to play a role in the community as well. They appear to be good neighbor corporation. So if there are no questions, we have a motion on the floor. Could I have a vote? All in favor of allowing this tree cutting to proceed? Thank you. Councillor Collins?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne, are you raising your hand to something?
You asked all in favor, Mayor.
Yeah, and I got that. Thank you. I have a motion here, and you have an addition to, you have the actual resolution in the addendum. That's really what it is, isn't it?
This one is here.
Here. Yeah. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support the Council of the Town of Parry Sound's Resolution number 2021-023, which is attached to Schedule A, requesting that the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit take a more proactive approach to community outreach and communication through a range of communication techniques and increase communication, including greater dialogue with municipal and healthcare leaders across the health district in advance of announcements. And that a copy of this resolution be sent to Doug Ford, Premier, the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Solicitor General, Rick Hillier, Chair of the COVID-19 Vaccination Distribution Task Force, the municipalities and healthcare leaders within the Health Units District, Norm Miller, MPP Parry Sound Muskoka, and the Honorable Victor Fedeli, MPP from Nipissing. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
Seconded.
Is there any questions or discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Councillor Collins, you okay?
Yes.
Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support the Town of Parry Sound's Resolution number 2021-022, copy attached, requesting that the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit publish statistics that provide the number of confirmed COVID cases and other appropriate information for West Parry Sound. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Doug Ford, Premier, the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Solicitor General, Rick Hillier, Chair of the COVID-19 Vaccination Task Force, the Honorable Christine Elliott, the Premier and Minister of Health, Norm Miller, MPP, Parry Sound, Muskoka, and the West Parry Sound municipalities, and the West Parry Sound Health Center. This is basically asking for our area to be broken out separate from the bulk of the whole unit. And you may have seen this before, but they haven't paid attention, so we're asking again. Could I have a motion? Let's get it on the floor first, please. Councillor Finson?
Mayor?
I so move.
Okay, I'll get the motion on the floor and then we'll have discussion, Councillor Osborne. Councillor Osborne, or Councillor Coles, could you second this?
I'll second it.
Okay, Councillor Osborne, you have a comment.
Just a comment that it appears that the health unit has been separating North Bay, East and West, at least on parrysound.com. They have been specifying the number of cases Parry Sound side and the North Bay side lately. I don't know if something's changed
Sometimes
recently,
they
but
do, sometimes they don't, but they certainly aren't doing anything about vaccination or any of that part by.
oh, not vaccinations. No, infection numbers. They pointed out 4 infected at McDonald's in Parry Sound. It's still open. 4 positives, and they're all out of town residents, those employees. But no, they have been more site specific as of late on the numbers. Yeah.
I do think it's still worth asking for it to be a permanent thing that we get broken out. Are there any other comments? All in favor? Councillor Collins, you okay with this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The archipelago one. This is just for information, really, isn't it? That you've got the Town of Archipelago resolution, read the use of the Parry Sound Area Industrial Park Tower. That's for information. And the Archipelago resolution, read the requested amendments to the Municipal Act. I believe those are pretty self-explanatory. But we have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support the Council of the Township of the Archipelago's resolution number 21-033, requesting that the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Honorable Steve Clark, initiate a review of the Municipal Elections Act and make amendments to provide clearer, stronger wording to assist municipal clerks in addressing issues related to the non-resident electors, and to allow for a more definitive decision to be made when adding names to the voters list, and to ensure that there is a clear and accessible way to enforce the rules described in the Municipal Elections Act. And a copy of this resolution be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier, Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Norm Miller, MPP, Parry Sound, Muskoka, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, and all West Parry Sound municipalities. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. And could I have a seconder from Councillor Fellner?
I second that.
Thanks. Craig, do you want to speak to this at all?
Sure, I can briefly. What this is really saying is they're asking the province to put legislation very specific on what determines a non-resident elector. Right now, it's not specific, and it's up to each individual clerk to determine that eligibility. So it's not necessarily consistent as it could be if it was right in the legislation.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor of endorsing this from the Archipelago? All. Thank you. And Councillor Collins, you okay with this one?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, in your addendum package, you have a proposal from Skelton Bromwell with 2 options in it. This follows our request at the last meeting. I've got a motion. I do have, but
there will be rates.
Yeah. This follows, you recall that we asked there to be better and more robust consultation on some of the key items in the official plan. That was at our February 1st meeting, and the proposal came back today with two options, one of which asked for a $7,500 increase in their price, and the other one is to basically revert back to what they were proposing to write the policies before discussion. And I know that all of you just got this maybe moments before the meeting, so I am going to suggest that this entire discussion be referred back to our Chief Administrative Officer. There is a steering committee meeting with Skelton Bronwell late tomorrow afternoon, and perhaps it can be discussed then, but I believe if there's to be an increase in allocation of funds or a change in definition, that we should leave it with the Chief Administrative Officer to handle it. Anybody have any questions on it? I know you haven't probably had a chance to really digest.
No, I agree with that, Mayor.
Thank you, Ted. Councillor Osborne?
When was this response from Skelton Brumwell received, Mayor?
Today.
I don't see a date.
I believe it was received by the clerk today, or maybe yesterday?
Friday.
Friday,
Oh, okay.
Friday, sorry.
Okay, all right, because I noticed that in the last paragraph, page 3 of the report, it says, unfortunately, critical members of the committee were unresponsive to the request for a meeting date. But this is the steering committee. And they were trying to get the steering committee together and not having any success. Is there anything?
No, it was from the people that represent the small businesses. There was no response from that group. And it has now since been rescheduled to tomorrow.
It says, we contacted the steering committee to schedule a meeting. Unfortunately, critical members were unresponsive. I don't know, the steering committee comprises more than just business people, correct?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So we're
yeah.
not sure which members aren't responding. Is there anything we can do proactively to encourage them getting their heads together?
Well, I believe in fairness that a phone call would have probably got them to reply, but that didn't happen until last week.
So they have a meeting set now?
Yes, for 4 o'clock tomorrow.
But the other thing I can say about that is they say today, oh, we want to have a meeting tomorrow. They don't give you a lot of time. I responded, I said yes, but I'm not, everybody doesn't have that flexibility. They do ask you to meet with them very quickly before the meeting. That's what I noticed. Like today, they'll say, can we meet tomorrow between 2:03 and 3:04 and 1 at 9, and so it's like, it's
short notice.
Yeah, it is.
Short
I think
notice.
so.
It's short notice, and it's particularly tough for people trying to run businesses.
Yeah, in the middle of the day, yeah.
Councillor Moffat, you have a comment?
Okay.
No, I was just responding back to your comment and Councillor Osborne's. I sent an email back that said, why don't you just pick up I sent an email back with Steve CC'd, why don't you just pick up the phone? And but there was, in that case, there was lots of time. It's just it was in that circumstance, it was not how Gail described. There was, we'd like to have a meeting next week. Could you please get back to us? But then it went silent, and then it was like, we want to have a meeting tomorrow, and we've not heard from anyone. So it's been a little disjointed on that, and I don't think there's any necessarily blame. It's just that schedules. So
Yeah, schedules, and I do want to remind us all that we insisted on a robust community consultation as part of the official plan, because it is one of the opportunities to get the community involved. So we pushed them on this, and we want to see it. So we'll see what comes out of tomorrow's meeting, and I know that our CAO is going to attend tomorrow. Okay, so we'll hand that one over to Jason. Council reports. Councillor Moffat.
thank you, Mayor. It's been another busy month, I guess. I attend the Electric Vehicle Society meetings, which is part of the ICECAP. They have a webinar every month. They have another one tomorrow. It's quite interesting, the speakers that attend. I was also participating in various committees and meetings for the West Parry Sound District Museum over the last month. We all, I think, attended on February 4th the Premier and Minister Rickford's Northern Ontario Heritage Fund press announcement with regards to the airport. Also that evening, I attended the Greater Sudbury Watershed Alliance as part of my role with the Muskoka Watershed. They did a presentation on, well, they were doing 5 presentations over various Thursdays, and that was the first one. Attended the Foley Fall Fair Committee on the 8th. On the 9th, we had our council meeting. On the 11th, I attended the Muskoka Watershed Council Board of Directors meeting. On the 11th of February, also attended the second event. One was in the afternoon by Muskoka Lakes Association, was called Pass the Calcium, Please Hold the Salt, and with the lakes. And then a similar presentation was done by the Greater Sudbury Watershed Alliance that evening. So I didn't attend the full meeting. Received a number of phone calls on Wellness Center, summer maintained roads, cannabis. Last Thursday, I attended the board meeting for the West Parry Sound District Museum. We had a closed session, which I had asked for about a year and a bit to have with regards to some matters. The chair passed the meeting after it got going over to me where I raised a number of concerns. That was responded to by one board member with, I would say, inappropriate and offensive language towards me. I left the meeting. I did speak to the chair yesterday. There is no apology coming from that board member, and none is expected. I am stepping down from that organization, and I know we have a budget ask of $17,500, and I would question whether we should be revisiting that ask. It was put on hold, not to be paid out because they're closed at the moment, and not to be paid out until May. And I've spoken to Jason and Craig on this matter, but I don't feel that supporting an organization that does not have a code of conduct with regards to its board and the behavior of a board member is something that we should be supporting. And that is the end of my report. If anyone has questions, it was a closed session, so there's not much I can say, but if there is something, I would like to get some direction to staff with regards to the budget ask, if whether we should be pausing this and using those funds in our, in a manner that fits within our strategic plan.
Councillor Osborne has a question for you.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. Daryl, sorry, what committee was that with board?
It was the West Parry Sound District
You referred
Museum.
to?
It was West Parry Sound District Museum,
Right.
the museum on Tower Hill.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor? Mayor?
Okay, sure, go ahead, Councillor Collins.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Daryl, I'm shocked to hear that, to say the least. I happen to agree that any board that is being represented by Seguin Township should have a code of conduct as part of their procedure or in the procedural bylaws. I think that we should take this into consideration now, Mayor, simply because we have no representation from Seguin on the museum board at this time. So I think that the grant monies for the museum should be put on hold until such a time that this is rectified.
Okay, thank you. That leads into my question to the clerk. With Councillor Moffat's resignation, are we in a position to appoint someone else to that board?
You could. Certainly, yes.
Do we have to?
I don't believe you have to, without seeing their terms of reference, but I don't think there's anything legally forcing you to appoint a member, a representative. Just as clarification, was Councillor Moffat giving notice that he intends to put that motion forward next meeting, or?
Oh,
Certainly. So I will be sending in my letter of resignation just to clarify tomorrow. And certainly I'm not asking for a resolution this evening. I think it's something that we can deal with at the next meeting, but I wanted to at least to prime the pump with regards to this here.
okay, so let's all think about it till the next meeting. The funding is on hold at least until the museum opens, which right now doesn't have a date. So let's think about all the options between now and the meeting in April. So thank you for bringing us up to date, Councillor Moffat.
Thank you.
Councillor Cole, next.
Yeah, I guess my time has been consumed with Belvedere issues, for those of you who have heard before. So I won't go any further into detail on that tonight. And also this week I attended the OJRA conference, for which I'll be submitting a report for the next council meeting because it just ended on Thursday. And very, very informative conference. Lots of good information. I did miss the networking with all the folks and going with Gail and having dinner with everybody. But it was a good conference nevertheless. I had to miss Wednesday morning because of a Belvedere management meeting, which was a really important one. So I did have to miss that. Other than that, just calls from constituents about seasonal roads, the cannabis manufacturing situation and things like that. Everybody's got an opinion on these things, so you have to listen. And that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I was just looking at PerrySound.com. The health unit currently cases 15 in Nipissing, 2 in Perry Sound, for a total of 17, and they are variant-related cases, which are more serious. As you know, Mayor, I had a discussion with the person in charge of the vaccination rollout for North Bay Perry Sound Health Unit last Thursday. The problem they're having is they're not getting doses, they're not getting notification of how many and when. So they're reluctant to set up vaccination sites at this time. It sounds like they may have recruited volunteers. They haven't nailed down sites yet, and they're waiting for the number of doses and timing, which I think is a mistake, because once they land at their door and they're not ready, they can't go into arms. And I don't know, I know that you, Mayor, have asked Hillier to investigate what's going on with their preparedness. I don't know if you've received an answer since you last spoke, but the way it sounds right now, I'm getting constituents, older constituents, asking me, how will I be notified? Where do I go? When do I go? And there's no answers out there. The only answer I'm getting from the health unit is that once they receive their doses, they've only received 1,100, 128,000 people. They've received 1,100, which is barely enough to cover long-term care homes. No doctors, nurses, paramedics, frontline workers have been vaccinated yet. But you got areas like Hamilton who are putting shots in arm today in Hamilton for people 85 and over. And they're not the only health unit that are starting to do seniors. All their medical people have been done. So big question remains, what's going on with General Hillier? He's supposed to be in charge. I'll leave the rest of that to you, Mayor. The other reporting was good news from the EMS committee. The province has provided $2.9 million over 4 years for community paramedicine. This is where the teams of paramedics go into people's homes and give them actual home care and home treatment where necessary. That was part of our EMS budget as a pilot. Now it's going to be embedded 2.9 over 4 years and no cost on the levy to municipalities. So that will enhance that program. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Can I just add, Rod, that just for everybody's information, that the long-term care facilities and the hospital staff in Perry Sound have received their vaccinations.
The long-term care, yes, long-term care just got their long-term care residents just got their second doses. That's when the health unit ran out. There was no vaccine for nurses, doctors, paramedics, nobody else at the front lines. There's no doses available. 1,100 doses is pretty weak.
Well, that was the staff and the residents, so that's.
Yes, in the homes. Yes, I'm talking about other medical staff, home care workers. Those, they're not done yet. And keep in mind, those 1,100 doses only do 550 people. It's a 2-dose shot.
Yes, no, I realize.
So the total number of vaccinations done in Perry Sound Muskoka is roughly 550 people out of 128,000. It's 0.008%. And down south, they're putting shots in seniors' arms over 85. Something's wrong.
Councillor Fellner, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on that note, to Councillor Osborne's comments, and I'm fairly concerned about this lack of a plan, but a lot of the other health units, Grey Bruce, Simcoe Muskoka, they already have plans in place. And matter of fact, Grey Bruce has got 3 arenas through the county set up, and they're ready to go as soon as they get vaccines, and they can go up to, I believe the guy said 1,000 vaccinations a day. You know, you see that those people on the news almost every night. You know, and then at 11:30 we tune into North Bay. You don't see our guy at all. You know, I mean, it's a little perplexing and is quite disturbing in my opinion, anyhow. So as far as things that I was supposed to talk about, we had our annual AGM for Park to Park earlier in the month. It was a fairly interesting AGM. Most of the municipalities that are party to the Seguin Trail Plan showed up to see. Our mayor came, thank you, Mayor, for your support, and our CAO came and graciously acted as the chairperson. Mayor McGarvey came. So there's a lot of interest in the organization. As a net result, we ended up with a new board of directors, new executive, of which I'm part of. So, and since then we've had one executive meeting. We've had promises from some of the townships that have formerly withdrew from the board to come back to the board, which is very encouraging. So it looks at early stages. I think what the main goal this year is going to be to try to restore the trail back to a condition so it could be used for the purpose it was intended. And stay tuned. It's a work in motion. We're applying for a grant. It's a Canadian Healthy Communities grant. It has to be submitted by March 9th. We have a team working on it. We asked, Jason's aware of it, and perhaps we might get some money, you know, but you don't know until you try. Had a library board meeting this month. Currently, thing we're dealing with right now is what is really the future of our libraries and what, during COVID, and what could we expect, how could we expect to restore services, and what staffing requirements should look like. So we're wrestling with that, and should have some decisions this month on a move forward basis. And I also attended the Ontario Good Roads Association, which I found very interesting. Some common themes there, and interestingly enough, recreational trails are big, big news. And lots of talk about combined use with roads and recreational trails. And, you know, a road is, you know, these public right-of-ways and public lands. I mean, you can't just be content in using them just for car traffic, truck traffic. You've got to be multi-use. It's big, and I apologize for not having my written report in for Roma. The mayor kindly reminded me of our pledge a few days ago, but I will have it to the clerk within a few days. And that's all I have to report for now.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On February the 11th, we had a regular meeting of DSAB. There was really nothing other than, you know, the regular meeting. Nothing there really to report. I did have another meeting, the District of Perry Municipal Association meeting, February the 10th. Both these meetings were electronic. And during that meeting, the executive passed a resolution waiving the 2021 membership fees for all the other 2020 of the 22 municipalities for 2021. And we also canceled the spring meeting for 2021, and we have left the fall meeting open depending on what's going on with the pandemic. Reporting back with the Orville high-speed internet, we should be up and running. They are just waiting for the wind report. All the necessary engineering has all been done. And so we should be up and running within the next 45 days. Thank you.
Councillor Vincent.
I attended well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Peter and all the guys who do the snow plowing. There's been a lot of snow, and I can tell you my street is amazing. They've done an amazing, amazing job. No, not even one phone call, not even one, about how it hasn't been done. There's not enough sand, because, you know, I'm at the bottom of the only hill in the town anyway. So it's been really good, and I want to thank Peter and his whole crew. Next, I was in a transportation meeting on February the 5th. We were discussing a survey that we're putting together to try to find out how people get around, what they need, those kind of things. I was at a DSAB meeting on February the 11th. One of the exciting things that's happened at DSAB in the last couple of meetings is that they have leased some hotel rooms, 18 of them, at the Midtown Hotel in Parry Sound to house the homeless. At those accommodations, there, because of COVID, they have to be separated. So each one, they have their own room, their own bathroom. Also, they're providing services like nurse practitioners, mental health, other things that they need, they can provide there at the facility. They don't have to go all around the town and look for them. They're there, and the feeling I heard from Tammy is that they feel good. They feel like they have a home. There's also 8 units that they have leased in Sundridge area, so the other side in the east, and very successful. And I mean, that's all thank you to the wonderful staff there, and Tammy, she's doing an amazing job. I mean, it's really heartwarming. It made me feel, wow, we're taking really good care of the people that can't take care of themselves in our community. She also had someone from Human Resources there who did a wonderful job, just telling us what they do. And it was really, really nice to meet some of the staff and have them describe what they do. They're just going above and beyond. It's a really good organization, and I feel good every time I go to their meetings. The next, I was at an OGRA, the Ontario Good Roads Association meeting. Now, I have lots to say, Art. I miss you very much, and I miss our dinners and breakfast and all that stuff. But I didn't think I'd be excited. I was so excited, and I thought of you, Daryl. You know, I get excited about something every Ontario Good Roads. This time, there was three things. Electric cars was big, huge, big. Everything is electric, buses, and I was thinking of it for transportation. You get an electric bus and geez, it's almost free. Anyway, that was so exciting. And Daryl, they have these, it was in the wet, I forget what the name of the company. I've got it all written down, but they have these tape that they put down on the roads. And one of the things that they've done is pilot projects for bike lanes. So they just put the tape down as a pilot to see how it works with your roads. And I thought of you because I thought, what a wonderful idea to see how much space you need, to see how it looks, and you can do it for 3 months, and see, oh, this works. Let's get in there. And I thought that we should get in touch with them for that reason. The other thing that came up that I was really excited about is they get excited about something every time. They have these this equipment that they put up on the pole, and they do data. So they collect data on how many cars, how big they are, what size they are, how many people cross the street. And then, so with that data, you can predict and you can figure out what you can do to change things, what you can do to change that road to make it better. It was fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Anyway, I thought of you again, Daryl, when I saw that. There's also a lot of talk about multi-use roads. I didn't get my question asked. I don't know if you were in the meeting, Ann, but you asked my question in one of them. I think it was you, because you asked about small communities like us, because they talk a lot. I talk a lot, but it's all about Toronto and maybe Toronto or maybe Barrie, but never talk about communities like ours. Ours is unique in that we have highways, and they didn't have an answer for me. I asked the question, so what do you do? How do you multi-use your roads when they're owned by they're highways. They're not owned by us. We don't have permit. We have to get permission for everything. So how do you make those multi-use roads? They didn't have an answer, but it was very interesting to talk about. And all the speakers were pretty good. One of my favorites was Andrea Horvath. And so anyway, I've got it all written down, Daryl, because I thought like some of the things like Blue City, you might be interested in looking it up and getting some of that information, because it's a lot to do with how we're getting around, getting electric cars, changing our fleets. I was very excited about that. I'm sure Peter would be too, to change everything to electric eventually over the next 20 years. The other one that I saw that I thought everybody should pay attention to is nuclear waste management. Nuclear waste management is the moving of all of the waste from all of the nuclear power plants up our way. So we should be paying attention, because Highway 11, Highway 400, and our railways, they're going to be moving the nuclear waste in 2040. I know we're probably not going to be in this position, but in 2040, they're going to start moving that stuff. And we better be prepared, and we better have our emergency plans in order, because it will be huge. And they're going to move them over a 20-year period, but in 2040, which seems like a long time away, but it isn't really, they're going to start moving that waste. So I found that very interesting. Sorry, I know I talked too much. Anyway, I'll hand in my report later. It was pretty exciting, even though I couldn't go to dinner with you, Art. I really quite enjoyed the conference. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And most of the meetings, but not all of them that I attended, somebody else has already reported on. Airport Commission on February 2nd, then the announcement that Daryl alluded to with Minister Rickford for the airport grant was on the 4th. Gail referred to the meeting on transportation. The Labor Market Group has now drafted a survey for us, and I will be circulating it not only to you, but to the other municipalities in West Parry Sound. It looks like the Labor Market Group is going to fund the entire survey and its distribution through a post, like a mail drop, and do the tabulation. So they're experts in data collection and working with the Y, them, and maybe some help from DSAP. We're going to collect the data of where people go and when they might need it. The electric buses that Gail referred to, there is a very large grant coming for rural Northern Ontario for transportation, and Bracebridge has just got 2 new electric buses. So we can't dismiss the fact that because we're rural, we're not going to get a bus. February 9th, and then again on February 26th, I participated with Hillier and the Premier on the vaccination plan. I've got a couple of my questions answered. Hillier says he's looking into why North Bay's behind. I did get a call back from a representative of the health unit, but it was a very unsatisfactory call, just put it that way, this morning, and leave it with me and several mayors, not only from West Parry Sound, but Amalgam, that we are continuing to meet and put pressure on. It's interesting that they say we don't have as many vaccines because we're not a priority area. However, we're one of the 3 areas closed down because we're a priority. And I kind of said to them, you can't have it both ways. You can't close us down because we're very infected and then say, but we don't get vaccines because we're not infected. So it's a little bit of mumbo jumbo at this stage. I did participate in the revamped announcement of NOHFC with Minister Rickford, and he announced 4 new funding streams and a total new board organization. Jason has discussed those with senior management, and I hope there will be more stones to be unturned for grant money. And then Councillor Osborne reported on the Norm Miller announcement for increased paramedicine funding. And what that really means is 7 full-time paramedics and a part-time occupational health professional in our region doing home health care to help people to age in place. And I think this is really exciting for rural Ontario, so that people who lose their ability to have transportation or whatever, who are not in settlement areas, will continue to get quality health care in their homes. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Parry Sound is the delivery agent for it, and a couple facts. 78% of our population is rural, and 68% of those are seniors. That's pretty scary. And then I was at OGRA, which was interesting. We all missed the networking, but in fairness, the presentations are probably a little bit better because they're all pre-recorded and they get to re-record if they make a mistake. So the presentations come off as very professional, but the networking and the question and answers are missing. February 24th was an airport special meeting of the Airport Commission, and the work is beginning on the runway project with some of the clearing. Again, like Sargent, we're trying to do some of the clearing before migratory birds. And then last Friday was another vaccine update, and there's a meeting later tonight on vaccine. Councillor Moffat, your question.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. You just twigged a question for me. Obviously, we did a public stakeholder engagement with regards to the airport. Is there, maybe you don't know this, maybe this is a Jason question, is there a timeline that we are responding back to questions in some sort of Q&A format on our website or whatever? How are we doing with that? Thank you.
Hand it over to Jason.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Moffat, you should go onto the Township website because earlier today we posted a response to all the questions that were received during the engagement. So it is up. The responses are back. While there are responses to the questions, I think it's important to note that I don't have the percentages obviously in front of me, but I did get a chance to read every single response that came in on the website. And while there was plenty of them, what was most overwhelming was the widespread community support for this project and for the airport and the business park. Overwhelming support for such a key asset for our community, and I thought that was very interesting how many people had such positive comments and the widespread support of that project. But to your point, there were a number of questions asked, and there are responses posted on the website live earlier today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee agendas and minutes and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for March 1st, 2021 meeting of Council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2021-017, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I have a motion from Councillor Osborne.
So moved, Mayor.
You, and seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I second.
All in favor? Thank you, and I'm assuming Councillor Collins is in favor.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I have the last one. That Council of the Corporation of Township of Seguin is hereby adjourn this regular meeting of Council at 7:05 p.m. to meet again on Tuesday, April 6, 2021, or at the call of the mayor. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I move that motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Pinto.
Second. I second
All
that.
in favor? Thank you, and
Mayor, sorry.
thank you, everybody.